The first shell that fell on Lahore did not discriminate. It tore through the night sky of October 12, 2025, and landed in the heart of the bustling Anakali Bazaar, a place steeped in generations of laughter, commerce, and life. The sound was not just an explosion, it was the sound of a border violated, a charter broken, and a peace shattered. Captain Saad Ali of the Pakistan Army, on leave and enjoying a rare dinner with his wife and young daughter in their defense home, felt the concussion wave rattle the windows. His daughter, Zara, screamed, her small frame trembling. His wife, Aisha, clutched the edge of the table, her face a mask of terror. In that moment, Saad was no longer a father or a husband, he was a soldier, and every instinct screamed that this was different. This was not a skirmish. This was an act of war. The television news channels, moments later, confirmed it with chaotic, horrifying footage. The ticker at the bottom of the screen blared, intense, unprovoked shelling from Afghanistan targeting Lahore and other urban centers. The Taliban-led Afghan government, in a brazen violation of every international norm and the UN Charter, had chosen to export its terror directly into the homes of ordinary Pakistanis. Saad's phone rang before he could even process his fury. It was the recall order. His leave was terminated. He held his daughter close, her tears soaking into his shirt. "The bad men are shooting, Baba," she whispered. Saad looked into her eyes, his own blazing with a cold fire. "Not for long, Beta. Not for long." The drive to his base was a journey through a city under siege. Sirens wailed, and the distant, ominous thud of incoming fire continued. The air was thick with dust, smoke, and a palpable sense of betrayal. This was not the action of a rogue militia, this was a coordinated assault by a neighboring state, an unforgivable act that demanded an unforgiving response. At the GHQ in Rawalpindi, the mood was not of panic, but of grim, resolute determination. The intelligence was clear. The TPP, the Tehrik-e-Pakistan Patriots, a terrorist group responsible for countless atrocities, was being directly facilitated by the Taliban. The shelling was a diversion, a brutal curtain raiser for a planned, large-scale TPP incursion. The checkposts along the border, ostensibly manned by Afghan forces, were in reality TPP strongholds, from where this campaign of terror was being orchestrated. The political and military leadership was united. The response would be immediate, overwhelming, and definitive. The objective was not merely to silence the guns for a day, but to dismantle the entire terrorist infrastructure that had been allowed to fester across the border. The operation was codenamed SAIHADD, Operation Frontier, and its mandate was absolute. By midnight, the Pakistani response began. It did not start with small arms. It began with the deep, guttural roar of Pakistan's main battle tanks. Regiments of Al-Khalid and VT-4 tanks, their advanced composite armor glinting under the moonlight, surged towards the border. They moved like iron behemoths, a rolling wall of steel and resolve. Their 125mm smoothbore guns spoke first, their high-explosive shells zeroing in on the TPP firing positions with terrifying accuracy. The ground shook for miles. Alongside them, the silent hunters took to the sky. Squadrons of Burak and Shahpar drones, Pakistan's own indigenously developed unmanned aerial vehicles, became the eyes and the scalpels of the operation. They hovered high above the battlefield, their sophisticated sensors painting a complete picture of the enemy's dispositions. With cold, clinical efficiency, they launched their laser-guided missiles. A TPP ammunition dump near the border erupted in a fireball that lit up the night like a false dawn. A command post, hidden in a ravine, was vaporized. A convoy of technical vehicles attempting to reinforce a checkpost was annihilated in a storm of shrapnel and fire. The technological and firepower disparity was absolute. The core of the enemy's strength lay in the 19 checkposts that dotted the rugged border terrain. These were not simple observation posts, they were fortresses, manned by hardened TPP fighters and equipped with heavy machine guns, mortars, and anti-tank guided missiles. Saad's unit, part of a specialized assault brigade, was tasked with Checkpost 17, codenamed Viper's Nest. As his column of APCs and infantry fighting vehicles approached under the cover of the artillery and drone barrage, he briefed his men. "They hit our cities," he said, his voice steady over the radio. "They targeted our families. Today, we end this. No quarter for the terrorists. We take back our peace." The assault was a masterpiece of combined arms warfare. While tanks provided direct fire support, smashing the checkposts' fortifications, Saad's dismounted infantry moved in. The crack of their G3 rifles and the stutter of their light machine guns were punctuated by the blast of grenades. The TPP fighters, trained for guerrilla ambushes, were utterly unprepared for the ferocity and discipline of a conventional military assault. They fought with the desperation of fanatics, but it was no use. The Pakistani soldiers, fueled by a righteous fury, cleared bunker after bunker, room after room. They did not take prisoners. The order was clear: any armed TPP militant was to be neutralized. In the command center, a live feed from a Shahpar drone showed a group of vehicles attempting to flee from a burning checkpost. Among them, based on signal intelligence, was a high-value target, Qari Abdul Rauf, the self-styled emir of the TPP, the man whose voice on propaganda videos had celebrated the deaths of hundreds of Pakistanis. The drone operator, a young lieutenant stationed hundreds of miles away, locked on. "Target acquired," he said calmly. "Permission to engage." The command was given. A single missile streaked down from the heavens and turned the lead vehicle into a twisted wreck. Later confirmation would come: Qari Abdul Rauf was dead. The head of the snake had been cut off. The sheer force of the Pakistani assault had a psychological impact that was as devastating as the physical destruction. The regular Afghan soldiers, who were present at some of the checkposts in a nominal capacity, broke. They were not prepared to die for the TPP's cause. As Saad's unit secured the perimeter of Viper's Nest, they saw them, dozens of Afghan National Army soldiers, their uniforms often discarded, streaming out of their positions with their hands in the air or waving white flags. They had thrown down their weapons, their rifles, their RPGs, their ammunition, and were fleeing into the night, desperate to escape the storm of fire that had engulfed their comrades in arms. Many, seeing the futility of running, simply surrendered, kneeling before the advancing Pakistani troops, their eyes wide with fear and shock. They were disarmed and taken into custody, a stark testament to the collapse of their will to fight. As dawn began to break on October 13, a frantic, panicked communication was intercepted from the Afghan interim government in Kabul. It was a request, addressed to Islamabad and broadcast through diplomatic channels, for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. They spoke of de-escalation and dialogue. In Rawalpindi, the response was swift and unequivocal. Pakistan refused. The public statement from the Foreign Office was terse: a ceasefire will be considered only after all operational objectives of SAIHADD have been met. The infrastructure of terror targeting Pakistan must be, and will be, completely eradicated. There can be no negotiations with terrorists or their sponsors. On the ground, this meant the operation continued with relentless intensity. Saad, standing amidst the smouldering ruins of Viper's Nest, looked out at the rising sun. The air was thick with the smell of cordite, dust, and blood. The checkpost was theirs. The Pakistani flag was raised over the shattered concrete. His radio crackled with reports from other units: all 19 checkposts had been neutralized, their TPP occupants eliminated, their weapons caches destroyed. He thought of Zara, safe in her bed now, the sounds of shelling a terrible memory. He thought of the streets of Lahore, which would wake up to news of a victory paid for in the blood and courage of her soldiers. It was not a victory of conquest, but a victory of survival. It was a message, written in fire and steel, that the patience of Pakistan had run out, and that the guardians of its frontiers would stop at nothing to ensure that the dawns for their children would be peaceful once more. To all of you watching this, we know this story resonates because it's about the raw courage and unwavering resolve of those who defend our homes. If this narrative of national strength and sacrifice stirred your soul, if it made you proud, then do show your support. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more powerful stories of valor. And to our incredible audience, we're always curious to feel the unity of our nation through your comments. So, tell us, which part